everyone, I'm Major Garrett. Welcome to Pfizer Forum. Welcome to a special Republican National Convention edition of America Decides. Day 2 of the Republican National Convention is underway. Many delegates here telling all of us, myself, our CBS colleagues, that they feel more energized, more united than ever behind the 2024 Republican ticket of former President Donald Trump and Ohio Republican Senator J.D. Vance. Tonight, the theme, and of course, National Party conventions always have a nightly theme. This evening's theme, crime and the border. Safety is the umbrella term, and it comes, we should point out, as the investigation into the assassination attempt against former President Trump that occurred Saturday evening in Butler, Pennsylvania, continues, and if anything, is intensifying. I want to go now to our podium position on the floor of the Republican National Convention, where we find Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what the atmosphere is as you look down on the convention and the delegates there assembled, and what you anticipate this evening as many Republicans seeking to win Senate seats in this election are due to speak to the delegates.
Hey, Major, great to be with you. I am just at this podium position. To my left is where you can actually see the speakers tonight, and we'll get to that in a moment. But, Major, there is a new accessory that these delegates have down on the floor here, and that is placards that say Trump Vance, the new ticket. And that is something new that we are seeing today, obviously, in light of that announcement yesterday. Today, as you mentioned, is going to be portraying Republican Party unity in the form of highlighting Trump's former rivals. You're going to hear from Ron DeSantis, the current governor of Florida, who challenged Trump for the nomination. Nikki Haley, who challenged Trump for the nomination. Was the last person standing, actually, in this primary. And notably, she was not originally invited to speak. She was invited on Sunday, after the assassination attempt. So we will be eagerly looking to see the kind of message that she has, considering that a lot of people who were intending to speak have rewritten their speeches in light of what happened on Saturday. Nikki Haley was invited after that event. But an excited crowd here today, and a crowd that knows who the ticket is.
Right, exactly. And to your point about Nikki Haley, Caitlin, you spent a lot of time covering that campaign, talking to voters who gravitated toward Nikki Haley and still are probably at some distance from the Trump campaign and this ticket. How do you anticipate Nikki Haley will talk about Trump tonight and talk about those supporters of hers and how they should come back into the fold?
Well, that's exactly what I'm watching, Major, is whether and how she mentions Trump. In the final months of her campaign, she was very, very critical of Trump, questioning his fitness for office. And what's significant here, Major, you and I have been talking about a Republican Party that has come full circle around Donald Trump in the past 8 years. This is clear that this is not Nikki Haley's Republican Party. That was clear during the course of the primary, and especially on one of the issues that's going to be highlighted tonight, which is foreign policy. That's a huge, her position is a huge contrast to Donald Trump's, especially when it comes to Ukraine, and especially a contrast to J.D. Vance. So it'll be interesting to see how she's received by this crowd, because I've also covered a lot of Trump rallies where members of the base, those who have been firmly behind Donald Trump, really were angered by Haley staying in the race for as long as she did, and kind of viewed her as disloyal to the cause.
Caitlin Huey-Burns on the podium position. Thank you. We want to turn our attention to the podium itself, where Kari Lake, a Republican candidate for the United States Senate, is now addressing the convention.
Lying about President Donald Trump and his amazing patriotic supporters. Actually, guys, they lie about everything. They've lied about Joe Biden's health, the economy, the laptop, the border. I could go on and on and on. But the really good news is that every day more and more people are turning off the fake news. And that's right. And Americans are waking up to the truth about the disastrous Democrat policies pushed by Joe Biden and his favorite congressman, my opponent, Ruben Gallego. These guys they're full of bad ideas. Just last week, Ruben Gallego voted to let the millions of people who poured into our country illegally cast a ballot in this upcoming election.
Joining me now here is Robert Costa. And Robert, good to have you with us. As Kari Lake goes on with her speech, I just want to put one thing on the table. She talked about undocumented immigrants voting in U.S. federal elections. That is illegal now. It has always been illegal. There have been rare instances where that has transpired, but it is not a central problem in election administration in any state of the country, Arizona included. Robert, your impressions of day two?
Day two is just beginning. We're seeing now a spotlight on U.S. Senate candidates like Kari Lake in Arizona. You're going to hear a lot about the issues of crime and immigration tonight. But what I'm really watching is the appearance of former Ambassador Nikki Haley. She ran against Trump in the Republican primary race. And there's a history, as you know better than anyone, Major, about these conventions sometimes being a real spotlight of the tensions in a party, whether it's 1976 with Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford, or in 2016 with Senator Ted Cruz and then candidate Donald Trump. But what I've been told by Trump campaign officials is they expect Nikki Haley tonight, though this could always change, she could always throw a curveball. They expect an endorsement from her tonight that's enthusiastic. In the wake of the assassination attempt, they see a lot of unity in the party here on the convention floor and among the major players, too.
It is typical, Robert, as you well know, for speeches at a convention to be cleared by the nominee or those who represent the nominee. Has that transaction occurred in the Nikki Haley case? Do we have
it's very
insight into that?
The Trump people have been very scripted about this convention. They have a whole litany of speakers. Now, Ambassador Haley, someone who might want to keep her remarks relatively private and close to the vest. But I would be very surprised if Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, the top campaign advisors, and Cliff Sims, who's helping with a lot of the speeches here, another Trump advisor, if they haven't seen it, I'd be stunned. I have no reporting on that. But this is a scripted convention as much as I've seen really the whole time I've been covering politics.
All conventions are scripted. This one intensely so.
2016 had a little fire.
Yes, a little fire into it. Very quickly, how do you think this convention hall will initially greet Nikki Haley? There are some delegates who are kind of skeptical of her.
And she was tough on Trump in the primary.
As Trump was tough on her in a personal way.
Very tough. I mean, he called her derogatory names. They haven't really had that peaceful moment. I think it's going to be interesting to see how she frames it tonally on message. And does former President Trump come out perhaps with her and raise the fist in the air and show real solidarity? The optics here, I think sometimes in politics, optics are overplayed, and it's really about action and it's about policy. But here tonight, optics do matter. Is the traditional Republican wing going to stand with Trump or not? She's here. Actions speak. But let's see what she has to say.
Always keep an eye on the optics. Robert Costa, thank you very much. I want to go down to the floor of the convention here in Milwaukee, where we can find and do find senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Ed O'Keefe, where are you, and what is the hat effort tonight on the floor of the convention?
Major, we're somewhere between New Hampshire and Vermont, which you can do geographically, and you can do it here as well on the floor of the convention. We're hanging by Vermont right now because, remember, that was the one state that went to Nikki Haley over the course of the primaries. And to answer your previous question, how do you think the crowd is going to respond to her? I think ultimately, if she delivers something like that Gin Blossoms hit they were just performing a little while ago, the cover band was, "Anywhere You Go, I'll Follow You," she'll do just fine. Anything short of that, and she may have problems. And so that is why there's so much intrigue and attention being paid to what she says tonight. Not unlike, for example, 8 years ago at around the same time on Vanquished Opponents Night, when Ted Cruz got to address the convention and did not explicitly endorse Donald Trump and got wildly booed by his supporters, which was the signal that this party was really in the midst of a sea change. So we'll be watching for the reaction of those here on the floor, the rank and file who are set to go out and knock on doors and make votes happen for Donald Trump. We'll also keep an eye on Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, who is set to speak as well. Another vanquished opponent who would like to have a future in the national shape of the Republican Party. And then we'll keep listening to these Senate candidates as well. Interesting that Kari Lake was the first one up, which means she got the earliest time slot, farthest away from prime time. Why is that? There are concerns among GOP leaders that she may not pull it off. Polling suggests she's trailing her Democratic opponent, Ruben Gallego, may even be dragging down Donald Trump to some extent in a critical battleground state. Major?
Ed O'Keefe from the convention floor, adroitly and cleverly giving us a subtitle for this evening, Vanquished Opponents Night at the Republican National Convention. Ed O'Keefe, thank you very much.